Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Nadelka, your Realtor Mom with eXp Realty. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to go behind the scenes with probably, in my opinion, one of the most mysterious parts of the buying process, and that's the closing table. So I brought someone who knows inside and out of title, one of my friends who I've known for several years, very trusted title expert, Tracy Scheid from Infiniti Title.
Thank you.
And Tracy, I'm going to start with having you tell us a little bit about what you do with Infiniti and how long you've been there. Kind of give us a little inside scoop on Tracy.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me today. I have been with Infiniti for 3 years, and I've been in the title industry over 30 years.
Ooh.
Yes. So
You're not that old.
I know, right? As a toddler. No.
She was a toddler because she's young. So I know we've had some crazy closings throughout the years. So Tracy's going to be here and she's going to spill some of the secrets on some of the things that happen behind the scenes. So first thing, I want to start with the basics. What does a title company actually do in the process?
Okay. So a title company is a disinterested third party. So we work with the buyer and seller to close the transaction. It's two parts. One part is getting things situated for the title policy, and the other part is escrow. And escrow is handling the funds, getting monies transferred, following your purchase agreement, getting things dispersed through the transaction.
So a very trusted party that as an agent, I want to make sure that my title team is reliable and trustable because they are handling earnest money and all of the ins and outs, making sure the title is, a good title, doesn't have issues. So why is that title search such an important part, an important step? Like, what is the title search and why is it so important in the process?
Well, the title search is going to show us the ownership of the property and any type of liens and encumbrances on the property. So we go back the chain of title, make sure the deeds have been filed correctly, and make sure that we clear up any type of liens and encumbrances.
Do people, I know I've had it happen with a lien. Do people always know that there's a lien on the property?
No. Sometimes it is a surprise.
Right?
Right.
So I had one, and she'll probably kill me if she ever watches this, but my mom, we sold her house and went to go through title, and all of a sudden there's a lien. And she's like, what do you mean? And it turned out to be a $0 lien, but when she paid her taxes, they didn't close the tax bill, so it had a $0 balance. So fortunately, it was not really a lien, but it showed as a lien through the title search that we had to clear.
Right.
And it takes a little bit extra time if there's a lien.
Exactly.
Right. What is done to get that lien cleared? What do you guys do?
So we'll go back to the lien holder and get a release or a payoff amount to get a release on that lien.
So the lien can be paid at closing?
It can.
Okay. So for buyers, that's important that you know that even though a lien might show up on the property, the seller can still pay it at closing. And for sellers, if there turns out to be a lien, I think a lot of times we'll see like maybe an unpaid tax bill or something like that. Sellers can pay it out at closing as well.
Correct.
Okay. So can you walk us through what actually happens at the closing table? Like what happens on closing day?
Oh, well, that's the best day, right?
Right.
Closing day?
Closing day. Get the keys day, file day, get paid day.
Exactly. So what happens is we collect all the funds and documents. We make sure that if there is a new lender, that they're ready to close. We get all the funding. We take the new deed of record or the new deed and the mortgage. We get that filed at the county. So once that's filed, then that's when we call you and say everything's closed.
And then I get to send my buyers or my sellers, yay, we are officially closed.
Right.
So basically what you're telling me is you're the superhero and you're going to make sure that no one accidentally finds out that there's hidden problems or, heaven forbid, ghost on the deed.
Right.
Somebody showing up on the deed that's going to hold claim because that's all cleared throughout the process.
Correct. And we actually update that title right before we file too. So we make sure that nothing's been filed in between our exam date.
So one of the things that, and this is going to be more for me too, because as an agent, I get asked a lot of times questions that I refer to title because there are different things that when you're buying a home, buyers are asked, do you want this coverage? And I want to say there's title insurance. There's one piece that's always paid, and then there's an optional coverage that they can choose to buy. What is that optional coverage and what does it do?
Okay, well, there's the owner's policy, and that's in your purchase agreement. And now with the new state of Ohio purchase agreement, they can get an enhanced policy.
Right.
Right. And that's just a little additional coverage for a minimal cost that protects against future issues. So title insurance is from the past, anything of title up to date.
Okay.
That enhanced policy will protect them in the future for fraud and things like that.
Okay, great. So in other words, a minimal cost, having that extra coverage might be something that buyers want to consider.
Correct.
So if you're a buyer and you're going through the process to decide what type of title insurance you want, getting that enhanced policy might be something you really want to consider.
Correct.
Okay. So moving into some more fun stuff. We've had lots of stories. We've had some title nightmares. I know one that I can think of right off the top of my head that happened on one of my transactions. But you fixed some really crazy things throughout the title years.
Okay.
What's one of the strangest title issues that you've had to fix?
For the strangest, I would say we have issues with like a common name or junior, things like that. We have to, do a little more research. But Infiniti, our closing teams have so much experience that they talk, they collaborate, and they discuss like what's happening in their deal. And somebody has something similar happen in the past, and then they can work it out.
I have an amazing title team that I use at Infiniti. I will say that. I had the one situation where we were, I think, several weeks into the process and found out one of the owners was in prison. And so title navigating through all that ended up getting us to the closing table miraculously, because when I found out one of the owners is in prison, I didn't think it was going to happen. But you guys used your magic tricks, and we got to closing. So that was probably one of the stranger ones I've dealt with, for sure. I've never sold a property from someone that was in prison until that point.
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting. What about, has there ever been a time when, it looked like closing was going to fall apart and you guys jumped in and we managed to pull it together and save the deal? Do you have any things that you can think of that maybe where that happened, when we were able to pull something together and actually save the deal?
Sure. I think, with Infiniti, we have attorneys on staff. So our attorneys are always like in the thick of it, trying to get things resolved and making sure we get to the finish line to close. So it's great to have those resources because they have that extra knowledge on what we need to do to get things cleared up.
I think just recently I had a transaction I sent over to you guys before I actually listed, because we sell properties that are in trusts.
Right.
They're an estate, things like that. And those all require extra probate listings, things like that. And I know that I messaged you and said, hey, what do you think about this? Are we going to have any issues? And you said, let me send it to the attorney. So as an agent, to have that available is phenomenal. And then it helped my sellers know that, okay, we're going to get through this and it's going to be pretty easy. So definitely having those attorneys on staff makes it awesome for the agents.
Right.
So, all right, we've been through some strange stuff. We've talked about some you're the saving grace of the transaction. What about something funny or memorable one? Do you have any funny experiences with title?
I do. Well, my most memorable one is I met my husband at the closing table.
No, you didn't.
I did.
How do I not know this?
I know, right?
Tracy. Oh my goodness, she's withholding information from me.
I know. Well, I did his signing, and then I called my best friend, and I'm like, he's so cute. So then after I called to tell him everything filed, I paged him. That's how I'm dating myself. I paged him. So when he called back, my best friend pretended she was me and asked him out for a drink. And then we met, and
oh my goodness.
Now we're married, 3 wonderful kids later. I know it was not the most professional way to handle it, but I was young.
That
then,
was
so.
awesome. Oh my goodness.
It worked out.
I can't believe I didn't know this.
I know. Isn't that funny?
And I've met her daughter. Her daughter's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know the other two, but her one daughter is
Oh,
absolutely a doll. Just like her mom, by the way.
Thank you.
Tracy has become one of my friends. I will say
Yes.
one of the cool things I'm going to flip it from home buyers and sellers to agents, because it is super important for agents, especially new agents, to develop that relationship with a title team.
Right.
And I feel like we've developed a really good relationship, even though I didn't know she met her husband at the closing table at this point. But wow, it is. We've developed a great relationship, and Tracy sponsored events for me, and I've been invited to some super cool events that she's worked with, and I always get my CEs and things like that. Title provides more than people realize, I think, and that's one of the cool parts, is that there are so many things that title does, and it really is from making sure that the buyer is safe in their purchase, making sure the seller can get their property sold with everything cleared, and then supporting agents through education and fun, like, because obviously we all want to have some fun too.
Right, exactly.
So that's why I tell my people that I work with that title doesn't get enough credit. They do a lot, and we don't always realize that. So, that is definitely one of the cool things. And I know I found one of the best title partners that I could have.
Thank you. Thanks.
I always ask every guest, because I think it's important to share with the people watching, if you were going to give a buyer before closing one piece of tough love or advice, what would it be?
I think for a buyer, it can be very stressful. And I've purchased a home, and I know it's stressful. But I think if you can put some trust in the professionals that you've hired, to do the job that they're paid to do, and just try to enjoy the process. Home ownership is just a privilege and a wonderful thing to do. So be excited about it.
Right. And that's a good piece of advice, because I know a lot of buyers stress throughout the process. And I know me as an agent, I try to take a lot of that stress away and keep things simple. They don't need to know every single piece that's going on. We work a lot of things behind the scenes. Right. My title team will email me and say, hey, we've got this. Do you have this piece of information so I can work through it? Right. I'm not calling my buyer and be like, oh my God, title's got an issue. Like, we're going to get it solved behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So knowing that you have a good title team supporting you is huge for a buyer and a seller. Right. So is there something that sellers should do to prevent issues down the road in the process? Like, is there something sellers could do early on in the process?
Well, sure. You mentioned it earlier. Like, if a seller thinks there might be a problem with title or a lien or something like that, reach out to you, and then you'll let me know. We can get some preliminary title work started. If there are cities requiring a point of sale, or they need a septic inspection, something like that, be proactive.
Right.
And I'll give a shout out to my webpage, infinitiTitleAgency.com, because on there we have an updated point of sale sheet. So they can check that out if they want to look it up.
And that's one thing that I lean on myself, because when I'm listing properties, sometimes we don't think about, oh my gosh, this city has a point of sale. Like, I don't always deal with point of sale in some of the more rural areas that I service, but then I get into Cuyahoga County, and a lot of those cities have point of sale. Some of them are interior, some of them are exterior only, some of them are, more in depth, and we tend to learn which ones have a stricter point of sale. Right. And I refer back to your page and the documents that I have to advise what cities have point of sale and what's required, where to get the information. So if you're selling a home, that's probably one thing that a seller can do as well. Check to see if your city that you live in has point of sale, because I know it's not necessarily your area necessarily, but what does a point of sale do?
Well, it's a city requirement if your city requires one, and we have to have that acknowledgement from the city that all of those point of sale items are corrected. Sometimes we do hold escrow funds. If it's just a certain time of year, those can't be done.
Right.
Or if a buyer's paying for it or something like that,
Right.
where it might be delayed. But if you're proactive on it, then, it might not hold up your closing.
Right. So the point of sale is the city comes and does an inspection. And our hope is that it's an external only and they don't have to go in, because usually the internal and external point of sales, a lot more shows up when there's internal, because they're testing your electrical, they're testing your plumbing, they're making sure there's no leaks and things like that. And title has to make sure that the point of sale is addressed.
Correct.
That it's either cleared or buyer's assuming,
Right.
or funds are being escrowed by the seller to make sure that the buyer can complete that after closing.
Correct.
So again, title is kind of that key piece to make sure all of the parts of the transaction come together.
Right.
So is there any myth about title companies that drives you crazy? Like people think, oh, title does this, or you have to do this for title, that there's kind of like a false perception of?
Well, I think with title, everybody looks at it like, oh, another insurance, like, oh, do I need that insurance type of thing. And what they don't understand maybe is title insurance is a one-time fee, and it protects you as long as you own your property. It's not like a homeowners or something like that where you're paying annually.
Right.
So, and it's a huge investment. So
It is.
Why would you risk not getting title insurance?
Probably the one thing as a realtor we say most of the time, it's probably the single largest purchase you'll ever make. So why would you fight the one-time insurance that's going to literally protect you from the time you buy your home until you sell it, and make sure that your deed is clear and things like that. So is there anything else just off that you can think of that you want to clarify or share before we wrap things up?
I think one of the biggest things we're going through right now in our industry, in the title industry, is fraud. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
We have some issues going on with ownership forgery and wire fraud. So just be very diligent on, who you're giving your information to, and work with a trusted partner that can guide you through this. We're investing a lot of money into secured platforms and just trying to protect our clients the best we can out there.
Right. And wire fraud is probably one of the things that I talk to both buyers and sellers about.
Right.
Because whenever you're going to wire a large sum of money, you want to make sure that you're wiring it to the right place.
Right.
And I've seen wire fraud where a scammer will come in and they'll literally make it look like it's coming from title.
Right.
And they'll change one letter in the email address and you don't necessarily notice it.
Right.
And then you wire to that person and your money's gone. So when you're wiring, you should reach out to title to confirm that you have the correct information, and that they're going to verify the amount. They're going to verify the wire details. So as a buyer and you're wiring your money in, you're not just giving away 10, 15, $200,000, whatever it is. If you're a cash buyer and you wire $200,000 and you find out that you didn't verify the information, that's why we have you sign wire fraud. So you're knowledgeable that you should be verifying that information. I know title does everything that they can to protect our buyers, sellers, and all of that. So that's a great thing to know, that their platform is secured and they do everything that they can, whether it be with the attorneys, whether it be with the title insurance, and just their systems in general. Title provides agents with a lot of information throughout the process as well. So when your agent recommends a title company, it really is for the benefit of the client, because we have trusted partners and we've developed those relationships. There's lots of title companies out there, obviously, but I've worked with some that haven't been so great. I've never had a bad experience with Infiniti, and I hope never to. I know it can happen, and we have frustrations at times, but the one thing is we've always been able to work through any hiccups along the way. So, Tracy, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you.
You make everything sound simple, and that's certainly helpful to buyers and sellers and myself. I definitely know that I still get, questions that, oh, shoot, what is this with title? But everybody's always willing to answer it. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Right.
So if you guys are thinking about buying or selling a home, know that you can work with Infiniti, as they are a phenomenal title company. And of course, you're going to want to call your favorite realtor mom. I'm Rebecca Nadel with eXp Realty, and I promise we will keep that process simple, smooth, and sold.